Hello everyone. I'm Yumu from Susan's family. Today, I'm showing you how to make a point pullover. This sweater comes in large and small sizes. Each size also comes in long and short versions. The knitting method is almost the same, with only differences in stitch count and length. Here, I'll explain using the large long version as an example. The sweater is divided into front pieces, back piece, the sleeves and the collar. We make the front and back pieces and the sleeves separately. Then sew them together and attach them. Finally, we knit the collar. Since everyone's tension is different, the size of the fabric pieces will also vary. Before starting the actual knitting, you need to knit a gauge sample. Measure your tension to ensure accuracy. There is a separate video tutorial for knitting the gauge sample. For detailed instructions, please refer to the chart. After taking measurements, follow the video instructions to make any necessary adjustments before continuing to knit. Note that after completing the gauge sample, don't cut the yarn. The yarn can be reused. Once you have measured and made adjustments, you can undo the swatch. Start by making the front and back pieces. The method for knitting the front and back pieces is similar. Both are divided into the hem, the body, and the shoulder parts, making 3 sections. After completing the front and back pieces, match up the shoulder parts and bind off for the join. Here, I will explain using the front piece as an example. First, let's learn the stitch technique for the hem of the front piece. Let's look at the chart. A horizontal line in the chart represents a purl stitch. A vertical line represents a knit stitch. To make the chart less dense, blank squares in the chart also represent knit stitches. The stitch pattern for the hem is single rib. That is, a texture of 1 knit stitch and 1 purl stitch alternated. There's one thing you need to pay attention to. The front piece is worked back and forth. However, the chart shows what it looks like from the right side. The first row is a right side row, so check the key to see how to work a certain symbol on the right side and wrong side. Now, please watch me demonstrate the specific knitting technique. First, cast on. Here, we use the method of alternating cable cast on. To make it easier for everyone to see clearly, I will demonstrate using cotton yarn. For specific yarn details, color schemes, and needle sizes, please refer to the detail page of our product. Make a slip knot with the yarn. Leave the yarn tail slightly longer. This makes it easier to weave in the ends later. Pick up the corresponding circular needle with your left hand. The circular needle has 2 needle tips connected by a cable. You can start knitting directly with one of the needle tips. Insert into the loop. Slightly tighten. This is the first stitch. This stitch is worked as a knit stitch. Hold the other needle tip with your right hand in a pencil grip. Then, wrap the yarn around your right little finger once. Gently pinch the yarn between your ring finger and middle finger. Place the yarn between your index finger and middle finger. This is the basic posture for knitting with straight needles. Next, place the right needle above the yarn. Insert from top to bottom into the loop on the left needle. Use your right index finger to guide the yarn. Yarn over and pull the yarn through. Slip it onto the left needle. Don't pull the yarn too tight. Otherwise, it will be difficult to pick up stitches later. This is the second stitch. This stitch is a knit stitch. You can see that the yarn is below. Move on to purl 1 stitch. Place the right needle underneath the yarn. Insert from bottom to top between these 2 loops. Pay attention to the middle position of the loops. Do not pass through the loops. Yarn over. Pull the yarn through. Slip it onto the left needle. This is the third stitch. This stitch is a purl stitch. You can see that the yarn is above. Next, knit 1 stitch. Place the right needle above the yarn. Insert the needle. Yarn over. Pull through. This is the fourth stitch. Then purl 1 stitch. Place the right needle below the yarn. Insert the needle. Yarn over. Pull through. This is the fifth stitch. The cast-on stitches are made by alternating 1 purl stitch and 1 knit stitch. Work downwards alternately. When the yarn tail is above, knit 1 stitch. When the yarn tail is below, purl 1 stitch. Continue working downwards until you reach the required number of stitches. Pay attention, the cast-on stitch count should be even. The sample swatch has fewer stitches. Please refer to the chart for the exact number of the cast-on stitch count. In actual practice, the number of stitches will be greater. Make sure to check the number of stitches. Everyone, take a look. This is what it looks like after completing the beginning chains for the sample swatch. Now let's start with the first row. The first stitch is represented by a vertical symbol, indicating a knit stitch. Start with the first stitch. Insert the needle from top to bottom into the first loop. Note that you are inserting into the loop, not between 2 loops. Yarn over and draw the yarn through, while releasing the loop on the left needle. 1 knit stitch is now complete. The second stitch is represented by a horizontal symbol, indicating a purl stitch. Bring the yarn to the top of the right needle. Then insert the right needle from the bottom up into the loop on the left needle. Yarn over and draw through, while releasing the loop. 1 purl stitch is now complete. Next, make 1 knit stitch. First, bring the yarn back below the right needle. Insert the right needle from the top down into the loop. Yarn over and draw through. 1 knit stitch is now complete. The braid below shows the texture of the knit stitch. Then make 1 purl stitch. Don't forget to bring the yarn to the top of the right needle. Next, insert the right needle from the bottom up into the loop. Yarn over and draw through. 1 purl stitch is now complete. Once completed, let's take a look. The purl stitch has a tile-shaped texture. There is a yarn strand running across the top. This row consists of 1 knit stitch and 1 purl stitch, alternated as you go. Remember to yarn over before each stitch, or you will end up with extra stitches. Follow this pattern to finish this row. Pay attention, for convenient sewing. Knit the last stitch. If the final loop is too large, you can slightly tighten the starting tail of the yarn. Now you can see that the first row is completed. Next, start the second row. The chart for this row should be read from left to right. The chart represents the right side of fabric. So check the key to see how to work a certain symbol on the wrong side. Turn the workpiece. Hang the yarn on your right hand. Start with the first stitch. This is a knit stitch symbol. So, knit this stitch. The next stitch is a purl stitch. Purl this stitch. Next, knit the third stitch. You can refer to the chart, or you can also follow the texture of the piece for knitting. If it's a bump, make 1 purl stitch. If the next stitch is a V shape, make 1 knit stitch. Then follow the pattern of 1 by 1 ribbing to finish this row. Pay attention, the last stitch should be a knit stitch. Now, look. The second row of the swatch is completed. Next, we will work on the third row. Simply refer to the chart or the texture for your working. Remember, the first stitch is a knit stitch. The last stitch is also a knit stitch. This completes the third row. Now move on to the fourth row. The first stitch is a knit stitch. The last stitch is also a knit stitch. This completes the fourth row of the swatch. The technique for the hem that follows is the same as rows 3 and 4, using the single rib stitch pattern. Remember, the beginning and ending stitches are always knit stitches. Since every iron's tension varies, the row numbers provided in the chart are for reference only. You can work until you reach the corresponding dimension. Refer to the chart for specifics. Note that the last row should end on the wrong side, which is the side where the yarn tail is on the right side. Now follow the previous demonstration and refer to the chart to complete the remaining rows. This concludes the explanation of hem knitting. Next, I will teach you a method to count rows. The surface of the fabric has columns of braids. One braid represents one row. Count how many braids are in one column, which indicates how many rows have been crocheted. Note that the loop on the straight needle does not count as a row. Start counting from the first braid. 1, 2, 3, 4. This column has a total of 4 braids. This means that 4 rows have been completed. This is the way to count row numbers. Next, we will work on the body section. The body is crocheted back and forth on the hem. Please watch as I demonstrate the specific technique. Let's start with row 1. Knit all stitches. After completing it, place a stitch marker on the braid at the bottom. This makes it convenient to count rows or measure length. This completes the first row of the sample. Then work row 2. Refer to the chart. There are all purl stitches in the middle. The first stitch is a knit stitch. Continue with purl stitches. Pay attention to making the last stitch a knit stitch. This completes the second row. For the remaining rows of the body, follow the same method as rows 1 and 2. The beginning and ending stitches of each row are knit stitches. For the middle section, work knit stitches on the right side. Work purl stitches on the wrong side. Continue until you reach the corresponding dimension. Note that the last row ends on the wrong side. Up to this point, the body section's knitting process has been explained. During the process, you might encounter situations where the yarn tail isn't long enough. You will need to join a new yarn. Leave about 10 centimeters for both the yarn tail to be joined and the new yarn tail. On the wrong side, tie a double knot. Make sure it is close to the fabric. Pull tight. Then continue knitting downwards. Keep the knotted part on the wrong side. You don't need to deal with the yarn tails from joining yet. Just place them behind. This is the method for joining yarn. Whenever you need to join yarn later, follow this same method. Now let's learn the method for knitting the shoulder parts. Let's take a look at the finished product. The shoulder parts continue to be worked upwards along the body section. It is divided into the left shoulder and the right shoulder. Note that the left and right here are based on the left and right when the garment is worn. Start with the left shoulder. After completing it, work the right shoulder. Decrease stitches on the neckline. Work even on the cuff side. Check the chart. We will use knit 2 stitches together. And slip 1 stitch knitwise, knit next stitch, pass slipped stitch over, to decrease. Here, I will demonstrate with a large size shoulder as an example. Please watch me demonstrate the specific knitting method. Start with the left shoulder. I'll use a small sample to demonstrate the knitting method. This demonstration focuses only on the technique. It has fewer rows and stitches for simplicity. Start by working row 1. This row is worked on the right side. First, knit the corresponding number of stitches according to the chart. The last stitch is indicated. Knit 2 stitches together. Insert the right needle from top to bottom, through the first 2 loops on the left needle. Knit 1 stitch. You have now completed knit 2 stitches together. You can see that the left loop is on top. For easier explanation, we will simply refer to this as K2 tog. This completes the first row. You can place a stitch marker slightly to the right to mark it. This makes it easier to count the rows for the shoulder section. Next, we will hold the neckline stitches. Take a longer yarn tail. Thread the needle. Insert the needle from right to left, through the loops on the left needle. Slip the loops off. The specific stitch count is marked on the chart. The stitch count for this sample is random. After completing, remove the sewing needle. Tie the 2 yarn tails into a slipknot. The holding stitches form the front neckline. Next, work the second row of the left shoulder. Turn the work over. The second row is a wrong side row. The first stitch is purl 2 stitches together. Insert the right needle from bottom to top, through the first 2 loops on the left needle. Purl the stitch. Purl 2 stitches together is now complete. Let's take a look at the right side. It shows the texture of a K2 tog. This should match the chart. Continue working purl stitches for the rest. Pay attention to work the last stitch as a knit stitch. This completes the second row. Next, we'll work on the third row. Refer to the chart and start with knit stitches. Continue until there are 2 loops left. When you reach the corresponding position, knit the last 2 stitches together. Insert the right needle from top to bottom, through the first 2 loops on the left needle. Knit the stitch. The knit 2 stitches together is now complete. This completes the third row. Continue with the fourth row. Work it on the wrong side. Start with purling 2 stitches together. Insert the right needle from bottom to top through the first 2 loops on the left needle. Purl the stitch. The purl 2 stitches together now complete. Continue downwards with purl stitches. Pay attention, finish with a knit stitch on the last stitch. Let's take a look. This is what the 4th row of the sample looks like when completed. The method for rows 5 through 7 is identical to the previous rows. Please refer to the pattern and complete them. Next, I'll demonstrate the 8th row using the sample. The first stitch is represented by a V-shaped symbol. It indicates a slip stitch. Since we are working it on the wrong side, you need to slip the stitch purlwise. Place the right needle underneath the yarn end. From bottom to top, insert it into the first loop on the left needle. Slip it to the right needle. This completes the slip stitch purlwise. Continue working purl stitches downwards. The last stitch is a knit stitch. The method for row 9 is the same as row 3. Please complete it on your own. Here, I have already completed it. The method for row 10 is the same as row 8. Here, I will demonstrate the purlwise slip stitch again. Turn the fabric over. Place the right needle underneath the yarn end. From bottom to top, insert it into the first loop on the left needle. And slip it without knitting. This completes the purlwise slip stitch. Continue following the chart for the remaining stitches. For the following rows, continue to refer to the pattern. Decrease at the corresponding positions. The last few rows should be worked even. Pay attention to slipping the first stitch on the wrong side. The last stitch should be knitted. The method is very simple. Everyone, follow the chart and knit until you reach the corresponding row numbers. Finally, end with the wrong side row. Once everything is completed, move the loops from the left shoulder to a straight needle. Leave about 10 centimeters of yarn tail. Cut the yarn. To prevent the yarn tail from slipping out, you can tie a loose knot. Leave the loops as they are for now. Take a look. This is what the left shoulder of the sample looks like when completed. Next, knit the right shoulder part. Start the first row from the right side. Refer to the chart. The first stitch in the chart is the symbol for SPO. Insert the right needle from top to bottom into the first loop on the left needle. Do not knit it, just pick it up onto the right needle. Knit the second loop on the left needle. Take out the working yarn and tie a loose knot. For convenience in watching, I will demonstrate with a different color yarn. Hang the yarn tail on your right hand. Pick up the loop. Complete the knit stitch. Adjust the loop size a bit. Pay attention that the knot does not exit the loop. Then, place the second loop on the right needle over the first loop. This completes the slip 1 stitch knitwise, knit next stitch, pass slipped stitch over. For easier explanation, we will refer to SPO from now on. You can see that the loop on the right side is on top. Continue with the knit stitch. Complete this row. This finishes the first row. Place a marker slightly to the left on this row. This makes it convenient to count rows. Now, work row 2. Refer to the pattern. Start with 1 knit stitch. Then, match and work the purl stitches accordingly. Continue until you have 2 stitches remaining. When you reach the corresponding position, the pattern chart shows the symbol for SPO. Since we are working the wrong side row, work as follows. First, switch the positions of these 2 loops. Insert the right needle into these 2 loops. Lift these 2 loops off. Insert the left needle from the front into the right side loop. Remove the right needle. Then place the left loop back onto the left needle, making sure not to twist the loops as you do so. This way, the 2 loops have swapped positions. Insert the right needle from the bottom up into these 2 loops. And work a purl stitch. The SPO on the wrong side is now complete. You can turn it over to see. It shows the texture of a SPO, with the right side loop on top. This completes the second row. After completing, work row 3. Start with a SPO. Insert the right needle from top to bottom into the first loop on the left needle. But do not knit it, simply pick it up onto the right needle. Knit the second loop on the left needle as a knit stitch. After completing, place the second loop on the right needle over the first loop. This completes 1 SPO. It's now completed. Continue with knit stitches, finishing this row. The third row of the sample swatch is now complete. Proceed to work on row 4. Start by purling the stitches. And finish the last 2 stitches with a SPO. Pick up these 2 stitches onto the right needle. Insert the left needle from the front into the right side loop. Then remove the right needle. Place the left side loop back onto the left needle. Pay attention to not twisting the loops. This way, the 2 loops have swapped positions. Work a purl stitch inside. The SPO on wrong side is now completed. This completes row 4. The method for rows 5 through 12 has been demonstrated before. Please refer to the pattern and complete them. Here, I will demonstrate the stitch pattern for row 13 using a sample swatch. The first stitch is the symbol for a slip stitch. Work a slip stitch knitwise. Insert the right needle from top to bottom into the first loop on the left needle. Do not knit it, and transfer the loop to the right needle. The slip stitch is now completed. Then finish the rest of the row. This completes row 13 of the sample swatch. Row 14 is very simple. Just follow the chart to complete it. Now let's work on row 15. I will demonstrate the slip stitch knitwise technique one more time. Insert the right needle from top to bottom into the first loop on the left needle. Slip it without knitting, and the slip stitch is completed. The following stitches are similar to those of the left shoulder. Everyone can refer to the chart to finish them. After completing the knitting, transfer all loops onto one needle. Leave a tail of about 10 centimeters and cut the yarn. This is what the right shoulder looks like when completed. That concludes the explanation for the front piece shoulder parts. Up to this point, we have finished explaining the entire front piece. Next, let's learn how to knit the back piece. Here I will use a finished product to explain. The knitting method for the hem and body of the back piece is identical to the corresponding sections of the front piece. Only the length of the body differs. Pay attention, the edge stitches on both sides of the back piece are also knit stitches. Start with the right shoulder part for the back piece shoulder section. Similarly, decrease stitches on the side of the neckline. Hold the neckline stitches in the middle section. For the exact number of stitches to place and the positions for decreasing, refer to the pattern chart directly. After completing the right shoulder part, don't cut the yarn. You need to join it with the corresponding right shoulder part of the front piece. Then knit the left shoulder part and join it with the front piece. Please watch as I demonstrate the specific joining method. Here, I'll use a small sample to demonstrate, mainly demonstrating the method. Place the front and back pieces with the right sides facing each other, and the wrong sides facing out. Align the top loops of the right shoulder part. Place the reserved yarn tail from the back piece on the right side. Bind off the front piece and back piece together. Hold the reserved yarn in your right hand and insert the right needle from top to bottom. Insert into the first loop on the front needle. Then insert into the loop on the back needle. Knit the stitch. Yarn over. Draw the yarn through the loop on the back needle first. Release the loop from the back needle. Then draw through the front loop. Release the loop. And the first stitch is completed. Next, insert the right needle from top to bottom. Insert into the first loops on both the front and back needles. Knit the stitch. Insert into the front loop first. Then insert into the back loop. Yarn over. You can also draw through both loops at once. Release the loops from both needles. and the second stitch is completed. After completing, take the loop on the right side of the right needle and place it over the loop on the left side. This way, you bind off one stitch. Pay attention to keeping the bind off loose to maintain elasticity in the shoulder parts. Continue to bind off the second stitch from top to bottom with the right needle. Insert into the front loop. Then insert into the back loop. Knit the stitch. After completing, take the right side loop and place it over the left side loop. The second loop is now bound off. Continue binding off in this manner. When you have one loop remaining, leave a yarn tail of about 10 centimeters. Then cut the yarn. Enlarge the loop. Thread the yarn tail through the loop and pull tight. Slightly tighten the yarn tail on the front piece. This way, the two pieces are connected. Weave in the yarn tail along the texture on the wrong side. You can take a few extra stitches if you like. Trim excess tail. For the other yarn tails from joining and the cast-on tails, weave them in using the same method. This is what the sample looks like after connecting the two shoulder parts. Next, work the left shoulder part of the back piece. After completing it, connect it to the left shoulder part of the front piece. The method is the same for all. Everyone finish knitting them? Next, let's learn how to work the sleeves. Let's take a look at the finished product. There are 2 sleeves in total. The knitting method is identical for both. Both are divided into the cuff and sleeve body for explanation. After completing the sleeves, match and sew them together. Please watch as I demonstrate the specific technique. First, let's learn how to work the cuff. The cuff edge is worked using the same method as the hems of the front and back pieces. All are worked back and forth in 1 by 1 rib. The first and last stitch of each row is a knit stitch. Please refer to the chart for specific stitch and row counts. Refer to the previous demonstration. Complete the cuff. That concludes the explanation of the cuff edge crochet technique. After completing the cuff, proceed to work the sleeve body. The method for the sleeve body is similar to that of the body section of the front and back pieces. You just need to increase stitches at the corresponding row numbers. The new stitch techniques used are left lifted increase and right lifted increase. Here, I will demonstrate using a large size sleeve as an example. Please watch as I demonstrate the specific knitting method. Rows 1 to 4 of the sleeve body. Follow the chart directly for knitting. The method is very simple. You can complete it by yourself. Here, the sample swatch has already been completed. The sample swatch has fewer stitches and rows. The main demonstration of the method. Now we will work row 5. Knit 1 stitch. Next, work 1 right lifted increase. Pick up the strand below this stitch on the right side of the braid. Knit 1 stitch. After completing it, continue by inserting through the loop of this stitch. Crochet 1 knit stitch. This completes the right lifted increase. Take a look at the texture below. 2 stitches in 1 braid. Continue knit downward. When you reach the end, 2 stitches remain. At the corresponding position, work 1 left lifted increase. Start with 1 knit stitch. Then find the second braid below the right needle with the left needle. Pick up the strand on the left side of the second braid. Knit 1 stitch. This is the added stitch. 1 left lifted increase stitch is now completed. Take a look at the texture below. 2 stitches in 1 braid. Finish with knitting 1 stitch. This completes the 5th row. Place a stitch marker here for marking. This makes it convenient to count the rows between 2 increases. Later, follow the chart to work the rows without increasing or decreasing. The sample has fewer rows between increases. It mainly demonstrates the technique. Here, I will demonstrate the increase method one more time. Start with knitting 1 stitch. Then crochet 1 right lifted increase. Pick up the strand with the knitting needle. If it's difficult to pick up, you can loosen this thread a bit first. Knit 1 stitch. Then pick up the next stitch and knit 1 stitch. This completes the right lifted increase stitch. Next, knit the corresponding number of stitches. When you reach the increase position, work 1 left lifted increase. Start with knitting 1 stitch. Then pick up the strand with the left needle. Knit 1 stitch. This completes the left lifted increase stitch. Finally, knit 1 more stitch. The second increase is now completed. Pay attention and place a marker to mark the position. For the following rows, increase stitches at intervals corresponding to the row numbers. Each increase is done at the second stitch from the beginning and end. Refer to the chart for the specific increase pattern. You can also adjust the increase positions according to your preference. Just ensure the fabric piece stays flat. Evenly increase to the corresponding number of stitches. Follow the chart to complete the sleeve body. After finishing the last row, now, let's bind off. Here, I'll demonstrate with a small sample. Bind off on the right side. Start by knitting 2 stitches. After completing them, pick up the previous stitch. Pull it over the next stitch. This completes one bind off stitch. Make sure to bind off loosely. To ensure the fabric piece remains elastic, continue knitting stitches while working off all the loops on the left needle. Complete the bind off for all of them. Now there is only one loop remaining. Directly enlarge this loop. Slip the needle off. Then, leave a yarn tail about twice the length of the edge for sewing, and cut the yarn. Thread the yarn tail through this loop. Pull tight. This completes the bind off. Finally, sew together the corresponding side seams of the sleeves. Thread the yarn tail into a darning needle. Place the wrong sides of the fabric pieces together, with the right sides facing out. Match up the side edges. Start by sewing 1 stitch at the bind off edge to secure it. This ensures the edges align properly. Then find the middle point between 2 stitches on one edge. Pick up 2 strands of yarn from this point. Draw through. Then find the corresponding 2 strands on the other side. Pull through similarly. Slightly tighten. Be mindful not to pull the yarn too tight here. Maintain the elasticity of the fabric piece. Continue threading through corresponding positions on both sides. Repeat this process and continue sewing downward. Sew all the way along the entire sleeve. When you reach the cuff edge, make sure to sew in the correct position. The finished cuff edge will look like this. Continue alternating with one knit stitch and one purl stitch. For the last stitch, ensure the edge of the fabric piece is aligned. Secure it roughly for now. After completing all the sewing, tie off and weave in the ends. Trim any excess tails. Secure the starting yarn tail using the same method. This completes one sleeve. Make the other sleeve in the same way. Up to this point, that concludes the explanation of sleeve knitting. Next, we will join pieces together. Sew the side seams of the front and back pieces together. At the same time, sew on the sleeves. Please watch as I demonstrate the specific joining method. Here, I will use a small sample for the demonstration. First, cut a piece of yarn, about twice the length needed for the sewing position. Thread the needle. I have already prepared this part. Now, align the front and back pieces properly, with their wrong sides facing each other. Align the hem positions. Here, the back piece is slightly longer. The joining position at the top is slightly forward. This is normal. Place one sleeve in its corresponding position. Position the sewing area underneath. You can secure it with a stitch marker. Pay attention to matching the top of the sleeve with the fold of the front and back pieces. You can also secure the middle position with a stitch marker. Determine the sewing position for the sleeve. Start sewing from the hem position. Use the same sewing method as for the sleeve side seam. Begin by tying a knot and hiding the tail on the wrong side of one piece. Then, come out from the edge. Pick up the corresponding positions of the front and back pieces to sew them together. Continue sewing all the way to the underarm position. The starting position might not be very noticeable. Just estimate the position. Pull tight. After completing the sewing at the hem, it should form a single rib pattern. When you reach the corresponding position, pick up 2 strands of yarn from the front and back pieces and sew them together with the 2 strands below the sleeve bind off. Be mindful not to pull the yarn too tight. Adjust the position as you sew, ensuring the sleeve joins the front and back pieces smoothly and flat. Keep it elastic. And sew a few extra stitches at the underarm area to secure it well. This prevents small holes from forming. Finally, tie off and weave in the ends. This completes the joining of one side of the front and back pieces with the sleeve. Repeat the same process for the other side. Make sure you complete this step. Up to this point, the joining technique has been covered. Now let's move on to knitting the collar. Let's take a look at the finished product. Pay attention, you need to change the needle size for the collar. Refer to the chart for the specific needle size. Along the neckline, pick up stitches and work a single rib stitch in the round. After completing, bind off, follow the texture. Watch as I demonstrate the exact knitting method. Start by picking up stitches, then take out the corresponding needle. First, thread the reserved loops from the back piece back onto the knitting needle. Take out the working yarn. Hang the yarn with your right hand. Take out the second knitting needle. Start from the position of the reserved loops on the back piece. Knit the stitches. Continue until they are all knitted. After completing, pick up stitches at the shoulder parts of both the front and back pieces. The back piece has more reserved stitches, so you can use the second knitting needle to pick them up. The method for picking up stitches is to pick up the V-shaped braids along the edge. Yarn over and pick up the stitch. This way, you've picked up one stitch. When picking up stitches, make sure no small holes appear below the knitting needle. If any small holes do appear, you need to re-pick the stitch. Try to pick up stitches evenly. You can divide this edge, except for the holding stitch section, into several parts using stitch markers. Pick up the required number of stitches for each part. The method for picking up stitches can vary. The sample swatch has fewer stitches, so the number of picked up stitches is not a specific reference. Everyone should pick up the number of stitches needed for the shoulder edge based on actual conditions. Just make sure the fabric lays flat. Refer to the chart for specific stitch counts. Continue picking up all the required stitches. After completing, transfer the loops from the neck opening hold to the knitting needle. Knit the stitches. When you reach about the middle position, move the loops to the middle. Take out the fourth knitting needle and continue knitting. After completing, pick up stitches on the shoulder part. The method is the same as before. This completes the stitch picking. You can check the stitch count after completing. If the loops are not evenly distributed, you can adjust their positions. This completes the stitch picking. Next, knit single rib stitch in rounds. You can place a stitch marker below the knitting needle on the right side of the yarn tail to mark. Finish knitting the loops on this needle, indicating the end of the round. The loops at the boundary of the needles should be tightened slightly. When you reach the next needle's boundary, also tighten it slightly. This prevents the texture from looking unattractive. After completing the loops on the last needle, the first round is complete. For subsequent rounds, follow the texture pattern for knitting. Finally, finish with a single rib bind-off. Let me demonstrate the bind-off method using a small sample. The single rib bind-off involves moving the right needle to change the position of the yarn. Purl 1. And knit 1 stitch. Now there are 2 loops on the right needle. Insert the left needle under the first loop, lifting it over the second loop, and slip it off the right needle. This bind off 1 stitch. For the third stitch, purl 1, use your left hand to pinch the bottom of the loop on the right needle. Remove the needle. Place the needle underneath the yarn and reinsert it back into the loop. Purl 1 stitch. Then, use the left needle to pick up the previous loop, lifting it over the next loop, and slip it off the right needle. This bind off another stitch. Continue working downwards. For the fourth stitch, knit 1 stitch. Pinch the bottom of the loop. Remove the needle and place it above the yarn. Reinsert it back into the loop. Knit 1 stitch. Use the left needle to pick up the yarn. Lift the previous loop over the next loop. Follow this pattern. And binding off all the stitches. Always move the right needle. To change the position of the yarn ends, when purling, the yarn is above. When knitting, the yarn is below. Follow this demonstration to finish the round. Now there is only one loop left. Directly stretch the loop. Remove the needle. Leave a 10 cm tail and cut the yarn. Thread the yarn tail through the loop. Pull tight. This completes the bind off. Thread the yarn tail into a sewing needle. Pass it through from the left side. To keep the seam flat. Then secure it on the wrong side. Secure the starting yarn tail on the wrong side as well. The method is very simple. Just complete it. This concludes the explanation of collar knitting. Up to this point, the entire sweater has been fully explained. If you have any questions during the process, don't hesitate to reach us via our website, Susan's Family, supporting your handwork experience, sharing the joy of life. Thank you for watching. We will see you in the next episode.